I'm about to walk you through a disaster. You're up on stage performing. Days, weeks, maybe even months of preparation have gone into this moment, with every note, space, and articulation being accounted for and scrutinized. You are ready, and now is the time for you to show the world what you can do. Then disaster strikes. While the whole world watches, you choke. At this realization, you freeze, making the situation worse. Split seconds elongate into eternities as you try to recover, but your hands never seem to regain their power. All you can do is sit, struggle, and suffer as a lifetime's worth of excruciating pain pierces your soul in a matter of moments. All goodwill is gone. The audience is no longer on your side because they were expecting excellence and you just showed up and wasted their time. All that remains is you, alone, destroyed by embarrassment. That is the nightmare known as stage fright. The very thought of it is often painful enough to prevent people from ever stepping on a stage once in their entire lives. Today, I'm going to teach you how to cure it. To do that, you're going to need to learn how to make mistakes correctly. Yep, you heard that right. First off, we need to get on the same page here and define what mistakes even are. A mistake in a musical context is when you miss a note, space, or articulation and do not recover from it in time to hide it from the audience. That not recovering part is extremely important. If the audience doesn't hear it, it's not a mistake. Remember that. So, where do mistakes even come from? Well, to put it simply, familiarity. Pretty much all mistakes on stage are a result of how you are familiar with what you are playing. Now, I'm going to stop you there. I know you misheard me. I did not say how familiar you are. I did actually say how you are familiar. How you are familiar is a description of your approach to learning your music, specifically how haphazard or organized your preparation is. The more disorganized you are with your planning, prep, and practice, the more likely you are to fail when performing under scrutiny. A house that's built without preparation will crumble to the ground as soon as the wind blows. Because of this reality, we must make sure that we always practice with a plan. The process of getting ready for performance has two stages. Well, okay, there's just the one stage that you're performing on. There's not two stages you're performing on because you can't be in two places at once. But there's two stages of performance, not stage performance stage, but it's like stages of a rocket. You know what? I'll just pick a different word. The process of getting ready for a performance has two phases. Preparation and execution. Preparation is everything you do in the practice room to get ready for action. Execution is taking action. The preparation phase is your foundation for giving an excellent performance. It requires you to start with absolute basics so that your foundation is solid and will withstand the infinite unknowns of live performance. This is achieved through the process of fragmentation that I describe in my last video or in my private lessons book now by emailing me at howtosoundgood@gmail.com. First lesson is free, it'll change your life forever. There is one very simple principle to gain success using fragmentation. Never give up, never surrender. When you play anything in any context, your goal every time is to play the entirety of what you set out to play. No ifs, ands, or buts. If it's two notes, you don't give up until you've played those two notes. If it's an entire verse or section of a song, you don't give up till you've played that section. If you miss a note, move on. You can fix it in another pass. Keep up with your metronome by any means necessary, even if you miss notes, and eventually just start mashing stuff. Can I help you? This teaches you two things. One, that every mistake can and should be recovered from, and two, how to accomplish that recovery quickly. Believe it or not, an excellent performer is not normally somebody who's constantly performing at the height of their abilities, but rather somebody who has the preparation to pass off their stumbles as something impressive. Like the Brazilian guy who dropped his groceries and kicked them back in his bag. When you teach yourself to recover and play through mistakes, not only do you make fewer mistakes in general, but when you actually do make a mistake, you can easily shrug it off and keep going, which is often more impressive to an audience than playing all of the notes correctly. Would this gift be legendary if his groceries had stayed in his bag? No. Because of his mistake, he got a chance to show the world what he can do, and because of that, the world is a much better place. But the ability to shrug off mistakes is really just the start. It goes a lot deeper. Training yourself to recover fast after making a mistake will strengthen and hone your instinct of self-preservation, which will mitigate social anxiety. Believe it or not, you're not actually scared of messing up. Not really. You're scared of people judging you, and that messing up will create that judgment. If you make fixing your mistake on the fly smooth and cool, you not only avoid negative judgment, you often increase your standing in the eyes of the audience because you seemingly shrug off your mistakes like they're nothing. And that's cool. So, what if you keep never giving up and never surrendering and you're still not making progress on your fragment? That's when you slow down and count out loud. Slowing down and counting out loud will solve most of your problems.
I know you haven't been doing it because I know everything.
But sometimes, still, you need to go farther. Sometimes you have to narrow your focus even deeper. That is a process called microscoping. Fragments normally start and end at musically logical and pleasing places like the beginning and end of a measure. Often what makes people stumble are the notes that are in the middle of a measure, so to overcome the struggle, you have to focus on the section that is causing you trouble. Normally that requires starting and stopping in weird places, like partway through a beat or a measure or a phrase. The most common place I run into the need for microscoping with my students is when they first encounter a 16th note on the snare. By this point, my students are pretty familiar with eighth notes, but they've never encountered a groove where they have to play their left hand without their hi-hat going as well. They've also never experienced playing a groove that requires them to count subdivisions that they're not playing. That and 16th notes just look weird, so when they see it, they crash and burn. So here's what we do. Starting all the way from beat 1 gives too long of an approach to effectively practice that 16th placement. So we need to shorten the fragment. You start at count 2, then you go to count 3. Remember, this will also work if you start on the and of 2, because no matter where you start, you always need to play till it downbeat. You treat this as a regular fragment, and then you go through your coordination, your timing, and your speed. All you need to learn is a small section, so focus on that section, get it up to speed, and then insert it back into the measure and start treating the whole measure as your fragment again. When you do this, you'll find that your stumbles will pretty much disappear. I was told by a teacher once upon a time that you should practice the exact way that you're going to perform. In the immortal words of Ryan O'Neal, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. To be fair, from the surface, the logic seems sound. If you want to do something a certain way, then start doing that thing that certain way. But more often than not, this approach fails to actually prepare you for the realities of performance. When you obtain the notes under high-stress circumstances, you can only repeat the notes under that exact same stress level. Approaching learning the notes with the low-stress, high-concentration strategy of fragmentation enables you to perform the notes under all circumstances. All this being said, you will need to eventually add showmanship to your playing, and the only way to do that is to practice it. If you want to get from boring proper playing to Animal from Muppets Insanity, you will need a method. Here's your method. You start adding mock performances. Mock performances are fake performances where you perform for a test audience. Often, the only thing you need from a test audience is their attention. That's enough to add that little dash of anxiety to acclimate you to the full-blown avalanche of stress that public performance can be. It's an inoculation that reduces the fear of social judgment to manageable levels. To get the most out of a mock performance, encourage your audience to make random noises and throw things at you. I'm not kidding. Do it. It will make you invincible. Plus, a lot of times, it's that kind of offer that will actually get your siblings to be willing to be a test audience. In my experience, the conversation goes like this.
Hey man, can you watch me play something real quick?
No.
You can throw things at me.
Normally, the trouble you run into is getting them to only hit you while you're performing, but we take what we can get. When done correctly, a mock performance will teach you to make mistakes loudly and boldly. Every fiber of your being will fight against this, but you have to do it. You do not learn from quiet mistakes. So, how does all of this help you get over stage fright? Stage fright is a result of your body believing that it can't trust itself under stress. Because of that, all of these techniques have the sole purpose of creating one thing: reliability. Not just in the sense of getting other people to believe that they can rely on you, but in teaching yourself that you can rely on yourself and your instincts. In the heat of a performance, your mind won't have the time to babysit your fingers to make sure you're playing the right notes like it does in practice. The performance hall is filled with all sorts of stimuli that are never present in the practice room, so distraction is inevitable. You need to be able to play excellently on autopilot. You need to be able to hit the notes on instinct. This ability will free your mind and elevate your performances to new heights. New heights of excellence, new heights of opportunities, new heights of success. As you go through this process, your stage fright and fear of societal judgment will shrink and diminish till it's nearly invisible and non-existent in your life. You'll no longer be frightened to show yourself to the world, and the world will reward that confidence in ways that you can only imagine. And, most importantly of all, freezing up and panicking when you do something as silly as missing a note or forgetting a line will become a thing of the